You know what's happening to most people right now? They're living everywhere except where they actually are. They're in yesterday, replaying conversations that already happened. They're in tomorrow, worried about things that haven't occurred yet. They're in their minds, spinning stories about what someone meant when they said something, what they should have said back, what might go wrong next week, next month, next year. And all the while, life is happening right here, right now, and they're completely missing it. The truth is, most of your suffering comes from being trapped inside your own thinking. It's not the world that's making you anxious. It's not other people that are stealing your peace. It's the constant chatter in your head, the endless commentary, the repetitive thoughts that loop around and around like a song you can't get out of your mind. You wake up and immediately the voice starts. Did I say the right thing yesterday? What do I need to do today? Why did that person look at me that way? What if this happens? What if that happens? On and on it goes, from the moment you open your eyes until you finally fall asleep at night, exhausted from wrestling with your own mind. But here's what I want you to understand. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who is aware of your thoughts. There's a massive difference between these two things. And when you finally see this difference, everything changes. Your thoughts are like clouds passing through the sky. You are the sky itself. The clouds come and go. Some are dark, some are light, some block the sun for a while, but the sky remains unchanged, always present, always peaceful beneath whatever weather passes through it. When you live in your head, you're identifying with the clouds. You're saying, I am this anxious thought. I am this worry. I am this fear. I am this anger. But you're not. These are just experiences passing through your consciousness. They're not who you are at your core. Who you are is the awareness itself, the peaceful presence that exists before the thought, during the thought, and after the thought disappears. Think about it this way. When you're sound asleep at night, where are all your problems? Where is all your anxiety? Where are all the things you were worrying about just hours before? They're nowhere. They've disappeared. Not because your life situation changed while you were sleeping, but because you weren't thinking about them. Your problems exist only in your thinking. When the thinking stops, the problems stop. This is not positive thinking. This is not about replacing negative thoughts with positive ones. This is about seeing that the whole game is in your head. Most people spend their entire lives trying to arrange their external circumstances to feel peaceful. They think, if I just get that job, I'll feel secure. If I just find the right relationship, I'll feel complete. If I just make enough money, I'll feel safe. If people would just treat me better, I'd feel happy. But what happens? They get the job and feel good for a week, maybe a month, then the mind starts up again with new worries. They find the relationship and it's wonderful for a while, then the thinking starts. What if they leave me? What if I'm not good enough? What if this doesn't last? They make the money and immediately start worrying about losing it or not having enough. The external circumstances change, but the internal experience remains the same because you're still living in your head. You're still believing every thought that comes through your mind as if it were the absolute truth. You're still treating your thinking as reality instead of seeing it for what it is, just thinking, just mental activity that comes and goes. Peace is not something you need to achieve. It's not something you need to earn or work toward. Peace is what's already here when you stop disturbing it with your thinking. It's like a pond. When you keep throwing rocks into it, the surface stays disturbed, ripples everywhere, and you can't see clearly to the bottom. But when you stop throwing rocks, the pond naturally becomes still. You don't have to make it still. Stillness is its natural state. The same is true for your mind. When you stop feeding it, when you stop believing every thought, when you stop living in your head, peace is what remains. It's always been there, underneath all the noise. Now, I know what you might be thinking, but I have real problems. I have real responsibilities. I can't just stop thinking about things. And you're right, thinking has its place. When you need to solve a problem, when you need to plan something, when you need to make a decision, thinking is a useful tool. But that's what it should be. A tool that you pick up when you need it and put down when you don't. What's happening with most people is that the tool has taken over. The thinking never stops. It's running 24 hours a day, even when there's no actual problem to solve, no decision to make, no planning necessary. Your mind has become like a radio that's always on, always broadcasting, and you've forgotten that you have the power to turn it off, or at least to turn down the volume. You've become so identified with the voice in your head that you think it's who you are. You think you need it to survive. But the truth is, your mind is making up most of what it's telling you. It's creating scenarios that haven't happened. It's replaying the past, which no longer exists. It's projecting into a future that isn't here yet. And none of it is real. None of it is actually happening right now. Right now, in this moment, reading these words or hearing these words. Are you okay? Not in your thinking about the past or future, but right now, is there a problem? Most of the time, the answer is no. Right now, you're breathing. Right now, you're alive. Right now, everything is actually fine. The problems only exist when you leave this moment and go into your head. So how do you stop living in your head? How do you get out of this trap? The first step is simply becoming aware of it. Start noticing how much time you spend in thought. Start catching yourself when you're reliving something from the past or rehearsing something for the future. Just notice it. You don't have to judge it or fight it. Just see it. Oh, there's my mind again, telling me stories. There it is. Worrying about something that hasn't happened. There it is. Replaying that conversation from 3 days ago for the 100th time. When you start to notice your thinking, you automatically create a little bit of space between you and your thoughts. You're no longer completely lost in them. You're beginning to see them as objects, as things that are happening, rather than being the thing itself. This space is everything. In that space, you have a choice. You can either continue to believe the thought and follow it down whatever rabbit hole it wants to take you, or you can simply let it pass by like a cloud in the sky. Here's what I want you to understand. Your thoughts don't require your belief. They don't require your attention. They don't require your agreement. They're just going to keep coming. That's what minds do. They produce thoughts like your heart produces heartbeats. But you don't have to believe every thought that appears in your mind any more than you have to agree with every opinion someone shares with you. Just because a thought shows up doesn't mean it's true. Just because your mind says something doesn't mean you have to listen to it. The more you practice this, the more you'll start to see that most of your thoughts are repetitive. Your mind tells you the same stories over and over again, the same worries, the same fears, the same doubts, the same resentments. It's like a broken record playing the same songs on repeat. And once you see this, once you really see how repetitive and unnecessary most of your thinking is, you'll naturally start to pay less attention to it. You wouldn't watch the same movie every day for years, would you? Yet, that's exactly what you're doing with your thoughts. When you stop living in your head, when you stop giving all your attention to the constant stream of thinking, something remarkable happens. You start to notice what's actually here. You start to experience life directly, instead of through the filter of your thoughts. You notice the warmth of the sun on your skin. You hear the birds singing, you taste your food. You see the expressions on people's faces. You feel your own breath moving in and out of your body. You experience the simple miracle of being alive, right here, right now. This is where peace lives. Not in having everything figured out, not in controlling every aspect of your life, not in making sure nothing bad ever happens. Peace lives in this moment when you're not thinking about it, when you're not analyzing it, when you're not judging it or wishing it were different. Peace is the natural state of simply being present without the commentary. Now, your mind is going to resist this. Your ego doesn't want you to be peaceful. Your ego wants you to keep thinking, because thinking is how it maintains its existence. The ego is nothing but a collection of thoughts about who you are. It's your self-image, your identity, all the stories you tell yourself about yourself. I'm the kind of person who worries. I'm not good at relationships. I always mess things up. I need to be perfect. People don't respect me. I'm not enough. These thoughts create a sense of a separate self, an individual who needs to protect itself, prove itself, defend itself, improve itself. When you stop identifying with your thoughts, the ego feels threatened because it is made of thoughts. So it will do everything it can to keep you engaged with thinking. It will create problems where there are none. It will magnify small issues into huge dramas. It will tell you that you can't stop thinking because something terrible will happen. It will make you believe that your constant mental activity is keeping you safe, keeping you prepared, keeping you in control. But the opposite is true. Your constant thinking is what's creating most of your suffering. It's keeping you trapped in a prison of your own making, and the bars of that prison are made of thoughts. Every time you believe a thought about how things should be different, you're suffering. Every time you believe a thought about what someone else should or shouldn't do, you're suffering. Every time you believe a thought about how you're not good enough or how life isn't fair, you're suffering. The way out is not to fight your thoughts. It's not to try to stop thinking through force of will. That's just more thinking, more mental activity. The way out is to simply stop believing your thoughts, to see them as what they are, mental events, passing phenomena, temporary visitors in your consciousness. You don't have to make them go away. You just have to stop giving them so much importance, so much power over your state of being. Here's a powerful shift you can make right now. Instead of asking yourself, what am I thinking? Start asking yourself, what am I aware of? This simple question moves you from being lost in thought to being present with awareness. When you ask, what am I thinking? You're reinforcing the identification with mind. When you ask, what am I aware of? You're recognizing yourself as the awareness, not the thoughts. Try it right now. What are you aware of? Maybe you're aware of these words. Maybe you're aware of sensations in your body, the feeling of sitting or standing, the weight of your clothes on your skin. Maybe you're aware of sounds around you, the hum of traffic, voices, the wind, silence. Maybe you're aware of your breathing, the natural rhythm of air moving in and out. All of these things are happening right now, in this moment, and they're real. They're not stories. They're not interpretations. They're direct experiences of reality. This is life. This is what's actually happening, and it's completely okay. It's completely enough. You don't need to be anywhere else or anyone else or have anything else to be okay right now. The only thing that makes you think otherwise is your thinking. The only thing that makes you feel like something is missing or wrong is the story your mind is telling you. Most people have become addicted to their thinking. They're addicted to the drama, the stories, the problems, the constant mental stimulation. They've forgotten how to just be. They've forgotten how to exist without constantly commenting on their existence. They fill every quiet moment with thought, with distraction, with mental noise. They can't sit quietly for 5 minutes without getting restless, without reaching for their phone, without needing to do something, anything, to avoid the simple experience of being present. But that restlessness is not a problem with the present moment. It's a problem with your relationship to the present moment. It's the mind's addiction to activity, its fear of stillness, its discomfort with peace. Because in peace, in stillness, the mind has nothing to do. And if the mind has nothing to do, you might start to see that you don't need it as much as you thought you did. You might start to experience yourself as something more than just a thinking machine. When you were a child, you knew how to be present. You could sit and watch an ant crawl across the ground for half an hour, completely absorbed, completely there. You could lie on your back and watch the clouds without needing to name them or figure them out or worry about what they meant. You could play with simple things and be completely content. What happened to that capacity? Your mind developed. You learned language. You learned to think. You learned to worry about what others think. You learned to compare yourself to others. You learned to plan and analyze and judge and interpret everything. You gained a powerful tool, but you lost something essential. You lost your natural state of presence, your natural state of peace. And now you're spending your whole life trying to get it back through achieving and acquiring and arranging your life just right. But you can't think your way back to peace. You have to stop thinking your way out of it. This doesn't mean you become passive. It doesn't mean you stop taking action in your life. It doesn't mean you don't care about anything. It means you take action from a place of presence instead of from a place of anxious thinking. It means you respond to what's actually in front of you instead of reacting to the stories in your head. It means you care about things without needing to control every outcome. There's a huge difference between thinking that serves you and thinking that runs your life. Strategic thinking, creative thinking, practical thinking, these all have their place. But repetitive thinking, anxious thinking, judgmental thinking, this kind of thinking just creates suffering. And most of your thinking falls into this second category. Most of your thinking is just noise. When you stop living in your head, you'll find that you actually think more clearly when you need to. When you're not constantly exhausted from mental chatter, when you're present and peaceful, and then a situation arises that requires thought, your mind is fresh, it's clear. It can think much more effectively because it's not cluttered with all the junk that accumulates from constant thinking. It's like the difference between a computer that has 1,000 programs running in the background and one that's clean and efficient. The cluttered computer is slow, it freezes, it crashes. The clean computer runs smoothly and responds quickly when you need it. Your mind works the same way. When you're not running all these background programs of worry and judgment and replay and rehearsal, your mind is available to actually serve you when you need it. Living in your head also affects your relationships in profound ways. When you're lost in thought, you're not really present with the people in your life. You might be physically there, but mentally you're somewhere else. You're thinking about what you're going to say next instead of listening. You're interpreting what they mean instead of hearing what they're actually saying. You're comparing them to others or to your expectations. You're thinking about the past with them or worrying about the future. And all of this creates distance, creates misunderstanding, creates conflict. When you stop living in your head, you become truly available to others. You can listen without planning your response. You can see them without the filter of your judgments and interpretations. You can connect with them in the present moment instead of relating to them through your stories about who they are or who they should be. This transforms relationships. People feel seen, they feel heard, they feel met, and they naturally respond to that presence with their own presence. The same thing happens with your relationship to yourself. When you're always in your head, you're always judging yourself, always finding yourself lacking in some way, always trying to fix or improve or change yourself. This creates an inner war, an exhausting battle with yourself that you can never win because you're both the warrior and the enemy. You're fighting yourself, which is insane when you really look at it. When you stop living in your head, you can finally be at peace with yourself. You don't need to be different. You don't need to be better. You don't need to be perfect. You can just be who you are, right now, exactly as you are. And from that place of acceptance, from that place of peace with yourself, real change becomes possible. Not change from self-rejection, but change from self-acceptance. Not change because you're not good enough, but change because you're inspired to grow and express yourself more fully. Here's another thing that happens when you stop living in your head. You stop being so affected by external circumstances. Because you realize that it's never the circumstances themselves that disturb you. It's always your thinking about the circumstances. Something happens, and immediately your mind creates a story about it. This shouldn't have happened. This is terrible. This means something bad about me or my life. This is going to lead to disaster. And then you suffer from the story, not from the actual event. Two people can experience the exact same situation and have completely different experiences of it. Why? Because of their thinking. One person loses their job and sees it as the end of the world, proof that they're a failure, a catastrophe. Another person loses the same job and sees it as an opportunity, a chance to do something different, a door opening. The situation is the same. The thinking creates two entirely different experiences. When you understand this, when you really get that your experience of life is created by your thinking and not by your circumstances, you become free. Not free from difficulties, not free from challenges, but free from suffering about them. Free to respond to life with clarity instead of reacting from fear and anxiety. Free to experience whatever is happening without the added layer of mental torment. This is what people mean when they talk about inner peace. It's not about having a perfect life where nothing goes wrong. It's about having a different relationship with whatever is happening. It's about not being at war with reality. It's about not believing every story your mind tells you about how things should be different than they are. Right now, things are the way they are. That's just a fact. You can accept that fact and respond to it, or you can resist it and suffer. Most people choose resistance without even realizing they're choosing it. They think their resistance is justified, necessary, important. But resistance doesn't change anything except your own state of being. It doesn't change what already happened. It doesn't change what is. It just makes you miserable. Acceptance doesn't mean you like everything. It doesn't mean you don't work to change things. It just means you acknowledge what is before you act. You accept this moment as it is, and then you respond to it. This is completely different from accepting a situation and doing nothing about it. You can accept that you're unhealthy and start exercising. You can accept that your relationship isn't working and have an honest conversation. You can accept that you're in debt and make a plan to get out of it. Acceptance is not resignation. It's the starting point for effective action. When you're not fighting with reality, when you're not lost in stories about how things shouldn't be this way, you can see clearly what needs to be done. You can act from wisdom instead of from reactivity. You can respond instead of reacting. But when you're living in your head, everything becomes a reaction. Someone says something and your mind immediately creates a meaning, and you react to that meaning. Something doesn't go as planned, and your mind creates a story about what it means, and you react to that story. You're not responding to reality. You're responding to your interpretation of reality, which is often completely different. When you stop living in your head, You start to see reality more clearly. You see that most of what you thought was happening wasn't actually happening. Most of your interpretations were wrong. Most of your assumptions were false. Most of your worries were unnecessary. You've been shadow boxing with phantoms created by your own thinking. There's a reason meditation has been practiced for thousands of years in every culture and every wisdom tradition. It's not because people had nothing better to do. It's because they discovered something essential. They discovered that beneath all the thinking, beneath all the mental noise, there's a place of profound peace and clarity. They discovered that you don't need to change your external circumstances to be at peace. You just need to stop disturbing your natural state with constant thinking. Meditation is just the practice of not believing your thoughts, of not following every mental thread that appears, of returning again and again to the present moment, to the direct experience of being alive right now. It's the practice of being the sky instead of the clouds, of being the awareness instead of the content of awareness. You don't need to sit in a cave for 20 years to experience this. You can practice it right now. You can practice it in the middle of your busy life. Anytime you notice you're lost in thought, you can simply come back to the present moment. You can feel your breath. You can feel your body. You can notice what's around you. You can choose to be here instead of in your head. And the more you practice this, the more natural it becomes. The more you'll find that you spontaneously drop into presence throughout your day, the more you'll catch yourself getting lost in thought earlier and earlier. The more you'll experience moments, then hours, then entire days where you're not constantly narrating your life to yourself, where you're just living it. This is freedom. Not freedom from life, but freedom to experience life directly. Freedom from the tyranny of your own thinking. Freedom from the prison of your mind, and it's available to everyone. It doesn't require special circumstances or special abilities. It just requires that you stop believing everything you think, that you stop treating your thoughts as reality, that you stop living in your head and start living in your life. The peace you're looking for is not somewhere out there. It's not in the future when everything finally works out. It's not in the past when things were supposedly better. It's here, now, underneath all the thinking. It's always been here. You've just been too busy living in your head to notice it. So what would happen if you stopped right now? What would happen if you let go of all the thoughts about what you need to do, who you need to be, what's wrong, what's missing, what might happen, what should happen? What would happen if you just let yourself be here, fully present, not trying to get anywhere or be anything other than what you are right now? Nothing bad would happen. In fact, something miraculous would happen. You'd experience peace, not the peace that comes from having everything figured out, not the peace that comes from perfect circumstances, but the peace that's always here when you're not disturbing it with your thinking, the peace that is your natural state when you're not at war with this moment. And from that peace, from that presence, everything else in your life becomes easier. Problems become simpler, decisions become clearer, relationships become richer, work becomes more fulfilling. Not because anything external changed, but because you're no longer carrying the heavy burden of constant thinking. You're no longer exhausting yourself with mental resistance to what is. You know what most people don't realize? The reason they feel so tired all the time isn't because their life is so hard. It's because thinking is exhausting. Constant mental activity, constant worry, constant planning and reviewing and judging and analyzing, this takes an enormous amount of energy. It's like running a marathon in your mind every single day. No wonder you're tired. When you stop living in your head, you'll find you have so much more energy. Not because you're sleeping more or eating better, though those things help, but because you're not wasting your energy on unnecessary thinking. You're not burning yourself out with mental struggle. You're conserving your energy for what actually matters, for actual living instead of thinking about living. This is what it means to be aligned with life, to flow with what is instead of constantly pushing against it, to respond to what's actually here instead of reacting to your thoughts about what's here, to be present with this moment instead of always trying to get to the next one or go back to the last one. Your life is happening now, not in your memories of the past, not in your projections of the future. Now, this breath, this moment, this is it, this is your life. And when you're living in your head, you're missing it. You're trading the actual experience of being alive for a mental simulation of life. You're trading reality for thoughts about reality. And thoughts about reality are never satisfying because they're not real. They can't feed you the way actual experience feeds you. It's like looking at pictures of food instead of eating. Pictures of food can't nourish you. Thoughts about life can't fulfill you. Only the direct experience of being present with life can do that. So stop living in your head. Stop believing every thought. Stop treating your mental commentary as if it's the truth. Stop giving your attention to the endless stream of thinking that wants to pull you away from this moment. Stop postponing your life until some imaginary future when everything is perfect. Start being here. Start noticing what's actually happening right now. Start experiencing the miracle of your own existence. Start feeling the peace that's always been here, waiting for you to stop disturbing it with your thinking. Life becomes peaceful when you finally stop living in your head, not because everything becomes perfect, but because you stop demanding that everything be perfect. You stop resisting what is. You stop fighting with reality. You stop exhausting yourself with constant thinking. And in that space, in that stillness, you find what you've been looking for all along. Not in the future. Not in different circumstances. Not in being someone other than who you are. Right here. Right now. In the simple, profound experience of being present with life as it is. This is the invitation. This is the possibility. This is available to you right now, not later. Not when you figure everything out, not when you become enlightened or perfect or have it all together. Now, in this moment, you can stop living in your head and start living in your life. The choice is yours. You can continue to believe every thought, follow every worry, replay every regret, rehearse every anxiety, or you can see through the whole game. You can recognize that you are not your thoughts. You are the awareness in which thoughts appear, and from that recognition, from that place of presence, peace is inevitable. It's not something you have to create or achieve or earn. It's what you are when you stop disturbing it. It's what remains when the thinking settles. It's what's here right now, underneath all the noise, waiting for you to notice it. So, notice it, be it, live from it, and watch as your entire experience of life transforms, not because life changed, but because you stopped living in your head and finally came home to the present moment, where peace has always been, where life has always been, where you have always been. This is the end of suffering, not the end of challenges, not the end of difficulties, but the end of mental torment, the end of the constant battle with yourself and with life, the end of living in a prison made of thoughts, and the beginning of something else entirely, the beginning of presence, the beginning of peace, the beginning of really truly living instead of just thinking about living. This is possible for you right now, in this moment. When you finally stop living in your head, life becomes peaceful again. Not someday, not eventually, now.